To truly understand Nancy Meyers' 2015 film, The Intern, one must first look past the glossy surface of its Brooklyn brownstones and the bright, airy cinematography that defines the director's aesthetic. At its heart, this is not merely a workplace comedy about an elderly man struggling with USB ports. It is a surprisingly deep sociological study on the friction between the tactile, deliberate world of the 20th century and the ephemeral, frenetic pace of the digital age. It is a film that posits a radical idea, that the good old days, and the brave new world, do not have to be at war, but rather, they desperately need one another to survive. The narrative begins by introducing us to Ben Whittaker, played with a restrained, almost zen-like grace by Robert De Niro. Ben is a widower, a retired executive who spent 40 years making phone books, an object that is itself a fossil of a bygone era. The film opens not with action, but with Ben's internal monologue about the hole in his life. He has tried everything to fill it, from learning Mandarin to practicing yoga, but he remains haunted by the silence of retirement. This sets the stage for the film's central metaphor. Ben is a classic structure in search of a new foundation. When he spots a flyer for a senior intern program at an e-commerce fashion startup called About the Fit, it isn't just a job application, it is a bid for relevance. The humor in the early scenes is gentle but pointed. Ben, recording a video cover letter on a camcorder, dressed in a suit and tie, stands in stark contrast to the startup's culture, where the CEO rides a bicycle through the office and hoodies are the corporate uniform. This visual dichotomy tells us everything we need to know about the clash of cultures that is about to unfold. On the other side of this equation is Jules Austin, portrayed by Anne Hathaway. Jules is the archetype of the modern millennial founder, brilliant, overworked, sleep-deprived, and deeply anxious. She is a woman who has built an empire from her kitchen table but is now drowning in the logistics of running a massive corporation. The script cleverly positions Jules not as the ice queen, boss often seen in films like The Devil Wears Prada, but as a sympathetic figure who cares too much. She takes customer service calls herself because she fears no one else will handle the complaints with enough empathy. When Ben is assigned to be her personal intern, her initial reaction is one of dismissal. To her, Ben represents a slowing down, a reminder of a corporate structure she is trying to disrupt. She assumes he will be a burden, a charming antique that she has to babysit. This initial friction is crucial because it makes the eventual bond between them earned rather than forced. The turning point of the film, and arguably its most symbolic moment, occurs not in a boardroom, but at a desk. The office of About the Fit is an open-plan chaos, littered with the detritus of startup life. However, there is one desk in the center of the room that has become a junk table, piled high with cardboard boxes, discarded papers, and random trash. It is an eyesore that Jules complains about but never has time to fix. Ben, observing this, arrives early one morning and simply cleans it. He organizes the chaos. When Jules arrives to find the desk clear, she feels a physical sense of relief. This act is Ben's philosophy in a nutshell. He brings order to chaos. He doesn't try to change the company's algorithm or critique their marketing strategy. He simply provides a stable foundation upon which the frantic energy of the youth can rest. It is the first moment Jules realizes that Ben offers something her generation lacks: mindfulness and patience. As the narrative expands, the film delves into a fascinating sub-theme regarding modern masculinity. Ben finds himself surrounded by young male colleagues, Davis, Jason, and Lewis, who are depicted as somewhat lost. They are well-meaning but lack the social graces and sartorial confidence of Ben's generation. There is a wonderful, poignant scene where Ben teaches them the significance of carrying a handkerchief. He explains that a handkerchief isn't for you, it is for the person who is crying. It is a tool of empathy. In doing so, Ben reintroduces the concept of the gentleman, not as a patriarchal overlord, but as a servant of emotional stability. He helps them dress better, he advises them on how to apologize to their girlfriends face-to-face rather than via text, and in return, they teach him how to navigate the digital landscape. This exchange suggests that while the older generation has much to learn about technology, the younger generation has forgotten the human technology of connection. The central conflict of the film arises when the venture capitalists behind About the Fit suggest that Jules is too inexperienced to scale the company further. They want to bring in an external CEO, a seasoned professional, to take over, effectively demoting Jules in her own company. This storyline resonates deeply with the challenges faced by female founders, who are often scrutinized more harshly than their male counterparts. Jules is torn. She feels the pressure to conform, to admit that she cannot have it all. Ben becomes her confidant during this crisis, accompanying her to San Francisco to interview potential CEO candidates. It is during this trip that the film's darker subplot emerges. Jules' husband, Matt, is having an affair. The revelation of the affair transforms the movie from a workplace comedy into a complex drama about marriage and sacrifice. Matt, a stay-at-home dad, has felt emasculated and neglected by Jules' success, leading him to stray. A lesser film would have had Ben confront Matt violently or demand that Jules leave him immediately. Instead, the film takes a more nuanced, mature approach. Ben observes, he listens, and when Jules finally confesses that she knows about the cheating, he offers a perspective that is devoid of judgment. The scene in the hotel room, where they sit on the bed and discuss the fear of dying alone versus the pain of betrayal, is the emotional anchor of the movie. Ben tells her that she should not give up her company to save her marriage, because the company is her dream, and sacrificing it will only lead to resentment. He empowers her to see her own value, reminding her that the intern isn't just about him learning from her, but about him reminding her of who she is. The resolution of the CEO plotline is a victory for self-belief. After nearly hiring a polished, traditional executive, Jules decides to trust her instincts and remain the CEO. She realizes that the chaotic passion she brings is the company's DNA, and that experience can be hired as support, rather than as a replacement. Simultaneously, the resolution of the marriage plot is controversial to some audiences but fits the film's realistic tone. Matt comes to the office, confesses, and begs for forgiveness. Jules decides to try and make it work. The film doesn't promise a happily ever after, but rather a work in progress. It acknowledges that relationships, like startups, are messy and require constant iteration. Visually, the film ends much like it began, with the practice of Tai Chi in the park. In the final scene, Jules finds Ben practicing his movements. She joins him, and their synchronized breathing serves as the ultimate thematic summary. Tai Chi is about balance, fluid movement, and grounding oneself. By joining him, Jules accepts that she needs to slow down to move fast. Ben, by welcoming her, accepts that his life has new motion. The film concludes not with a grand speech, but with a quiet moment of shared peace. Ultimately, The Intern is a love letter to the idea that generations are not enemies. It argues against the cultural obsession with newness, by proving that classic never goes out of style. Robert De Niro's Ben Whittaker is an aspirational figure, not because he is rich or powerful, but because he is observant, kind, and willing to be of service. In a world that screams for attention, he listens. That is the quiet power of the film. It reassures the viewer that while technology changes, the fundamental needs of the human heart, to be useful, to be heard, and to be connected, remain exactly the same.